New World Order, you underestimated the people. You took a gamble and you lost.
Okay, we don't like this. Okay, well then we're going to do this. And that is just how it's going to be.
Evidence brought to light that there is a corrupt officer, or that officer did shoot that kid on purpose.
I don't care how I look, I don't care how I sound, I don't care what the beat is. I just care the message gets across.
What's up, everyone? This is the Tinman with the Resistance. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance. Now, outside of the weekly report, I really haven't been doing too many videos, especially concerning my personal resistance transmission vlogs. So, I think it's time I kick that off again. And what better way to kick things off than with a controversial issue? And that issue is the new, how would you put it? The new policies, yeah, that's the right word to use, the new policies concerning homosexuality in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, it's no secret I'm a Mormon, so you could probably say I'm going to be biased and showing favoritism to the church in this video, which is fine, you can think that, but for anybody who follows TWWRN, they know that anytime I get on the mic, regardless of my personal feelings or religious reservations or what have you, I remain totally unbiased and stick to the facts. And that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this. This is, as I said, a very controversial issue. Why? Because many people feel that, one, this is the church moving backwards rather than evolving with society. And before I get into that, let me point out number two. People feel that this new policy is targeting and or discriminating against homosexual families within the church. Now, that's very interesting, and that's something that really needs to be addressed. But going back to point number one, the church moving backwards instead of moving forward with society. That's very subjective, because from a Christian standpoint, regardless of your faith, if you believe in the Bible and Jesus Christ and all that, if you follow this book, and this is not LDS, this is a standard KJV Bible from a Christian Bible bookstore. If you follow the Bible and subscribe to any form of Christian-based religious ideology or system, you accept the idea that God is the Word and the Word is the law, and that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And being that God is the Word, His law is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And the Bible clearly states that, as per the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not create adultery. And it's expounded on in the Old Testament, saying that you will not have sex outside of wedlock, which is traditionally between a man and a woman. So, no sex before marriage, no cheating on your significant other, no homosexuality, no bestiality, no incest, nothing. Just sex between a married man and his wife. That is it. That is God's law as far as a Christian theological standpoint is concerned. So, regardless of what society says or what direction society decides to go with any level of sexual morality is irrelevant to God. That's just all there is to it. Like it or hate it, that's what this book says. Okay? God is the Word, and the Word is the law, and all that fun shit. So, but what it really comes down to is, I can't even think of the word. It comes down to point of view. Some people will say that society is moving forward, being less cynical or judgmental against people who don't necessarily fit into the traditional perceptions of what is right and wrong, and will argue who is to say what is right or wrong, at which point you have equal rights regardless of color, ethnicity, region, sexual preference, religious background, and all those things need to be respected. However, we are reaching a point in society where God's law is in confliction with man's law. And what I mean by this is the Constitution protects all parties regardless of race, sex, or religious background. And in this instance of gay marriage, the two are conflicting. Religion is conflicting with gay marriage because they do not go hand in hand. And we've seen this, if a homosexual couple wishes to be married by a priest or a justice of the peace who is Christian, that would force that one of these parties to have their rights violated, because if this priest or justice of the peace marries this homosexual couple, it's violating their civil rights and forcing them to go against what they believe is Christian. And if the justice of the peace or the pastor or priest or whatever rejects the homosexual couple, then that violates that couple's civil rights that are protected under the Constitution as well. So it's a double-edged sword in all retrospect, and that's where this policy really came into play with the church, is because they want to avoid any legal backlash and, for all intents and purposes, give themselves a strong constitutional foothold in which to stand as far as their religious beliefs are concerned, which is understandable. We all want to have our rights protected, so you got to find the middle ground, and that's what this church's policy is trying to do in that regard. Now, getting to the point 2, where people feel that it's discriminating against homosexual families within the church. First off, though there are homosexuals who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, those numbers are relatively small. You know, I'm not going to speculate as to how many there are or aren't, but I'm pretty well sure, and I think it's safe to assume, that these numbers would be relatively small, because for the most part, the religious aspect of things, if you believe in God, you honor His word. If you are a firm believer in Jesus Christ, you would try to follow His commandments. And if you're homosexual, you're not exactly fitting into that criteria, so you're going to face, or at least have faced, the ridicule and judgment from churches and their congregations and whatnot. So it is to be understood and assumed that not many people would, in this position, would subscribe to any religious institutions. But there are those who do. And what the church is trying to do in regards to this aspect is, again, to cover their necks on a legal standpoint, as well as not putting families in uncomfortable situations. Now, the way it works here, and what I've read on this, is that the church has instituted this policy that children of homosexual parents have to wait till they're 18 to be baptized. And this is why. The age of accountability in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that makes you eligible for baptism is 8 years old. That, according to the church, is the age where the child is at the point of accountability. They can understand the choice that they are making. However, the choice as to whether or not to be baptized and accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior is substantially different than understanding the dynamics of adult relationships. And being that homosexuality is, for all intents and purposes, a sinful act as far as the Bible is concerned, children, whether they're at the age of accountability or not, are not mature enough to understand these things. They're not able to encompass the dynamics of love between a man and a woman, or a woman and a woman, or a man and a man. They can't encompass that. They're not going to understand that this family is heterosexual. You have a mom and a dad, and then you have a friend down the street who's got 2 dads or 2 moms. They're not going to understand that. They're just going to assume, oh, that's just the way it is. They're not going to understand the finer details of how these things work, how sex works, how love and intimate relationships work, or how they conflict with God's law. They're not going to understand these things. This is basically trying to teach calculus to a kindergartner at that point. It's too advanced for children, even those at the age of accountability, because they haven't gone through puberty, they don't understand sex, they don't understand relationships, and they have to be at that point, at least from where the law stands, which 18, you're an adult, you're supposed to have the understanding and got a pretty good grasp of reality and what's what. You got a firm foundation. But kids from 8 even on through puberty up to 18, they're still coming into their own. They're discovering who they are, what they want to be, where they stand on things like sex and marriage and homosexuality and this and that. Okay, they're still discovering that for themselves and creating their own identity. And that's why the law says you're not an adult, you're not mature enough to make these decisions on your own until you're 18. And the church in this regard is in agreement with the law. They want people to wait until they have a firm grasp on these issues. And that is understandable and respectable given the circumstances of these situations, because if you're a child in a homosexual family, that's just the way it is. You don't really have your own opinion on the matter, it's just the way it is. And your opinion could be swayed one way or another, and the church doesn't want to be in that position to where their membership or even leadership is directly or indirectly influencing a child's perception of reality. That job's up to the parents. And that's where the church and the law are in agreement. So it's not that they're trying to discriminate or single out homosexual families or members or even their children. They just want to avoid these issues. They see these issues and go, okay, this is the best solution to preventing these issues. We don't want to step on the parents' toes. We don't want to sway a person's opinion one way or the other. We want these children to make their own decisions and let the parents do their job as parents. That's all there really is to it. Now, that's not to say that the children or their families can't participate in church functions. The parents can still be baptized in the church and still be recognized as members. And everybody, including the children, can participate in church services and extracurricular church activities. Nobody's excluded from that. Just the children have to wait until they're 18, because at which point they've got a firm grasp on things and have made their own determinations as to who they are, what they think, and how they feel about these sort of issues. Bottom line. They don't want to step on the toes of the law. They want to make sure everybody's civil rights are protected, and they don't want to step on the toes of the parents, whether heterosexual or homosexual. And that's understandable and respectable. It's not that they're trying to deny anybody's salvation. It's just taking a step back and saying, okay, what's the best way to handle this situation? Let's leave it to the parents to raise their kids, and let's not interfere. And I think that's perfectly fine. Now, many people out there may not agree with me, and that's fine as well. Go ahead and post your comments in the discussion forum here, and we'll see where this goes. I'll probably make a few other videos about it. We may have this as a weekly report topic, and I'm going to try to get an interview with a representative from the church. And we'll continue this discussion later. Until next time, I'm the Tinman with the Resistance. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance.